region around the Great Lakes has been called the heartland. When it comes to agriculture, there's hardly an area in the world that compares.
Everybody, just hold on. I don't know what we're going to have here.
There's a lot of self-proclaimed geniuses out there that know the national yield, but they're all wrong.
Manage money, piling in.
Double digits higher.
So at this point, we're in kind of uncharted territory.
There's a lot of money on the sidelines.
So that was a crazy one.
That's what brings the viewers back. That a boy.
Good morning, everybody. It's Monday, April 27th, and this is the AgYield War Room. I'm Dan Dempsey, and I'll be moderating today's session. As always, if you get any questions or comments, please feel free to drop us a line in the chat area. I'll be sure to get to it during the show. Overnight markets here had May corn up 2 3/4 at 457 3/4. May soybeans are up 2 1/4 at 1166, and May Chicago wheat was up 2 at 610 1/4. No export sales announced here this morning, so we'll jump right in. We got what a wild weekend with everything going on in Washington. As it pertains to the war, stalled peace talks with Iran. We pulled back the envoy. Apparently, early this morning, Iran did submit a new proposal. It's being analyzed there at the White House, and I think they said they'd get back to everybody here sometime today or tomorrow. So we're still headline driven in that front. Crude oil this morning, since we closed, the overnight markets rallied a little bit. We're up $1.50, about $1.60 now, 95.98. So Dustin, maybe share a few thoughts with us here as we start the week, and then we'll throw around the room.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Good morning. Yeah, on Friday we had some jawboning of the energy markets down. Right, we were kind of flirting with $97 for that lead month contract, and then the promise of more peace talks brought it down. But there's still a lot of non-starters here, as I understand. Like my understanding is they still haven't agreed to stop enrichment or to give up their nuclear dust. And that's something Trump said over and over again. It's a non-starter. So we keep kind of ticking that clock where things start to really get serious in the next couple of weeks, especially as they run out of storage for their own production. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, right now, crude oil is up $2 to start, the session. And we're flirting with that psychological $100 number. I think that's part of what is just driving the support for grains. So here's a chart of Deese corn. Jack, if you can bring that up. Just as a reminder of like how low we got. We flirted into the 460s again. Now we're back up to flirting with the 490 level again. That box represents $4.90 to $5. So this is another chance to catch up if you haven't gotten any sort of plan B in place. And our big thing again is kind of bridging the gap to the very bottom end of this chart where crop insurance kicks in. Right, there's a lot of margin that's there, and I think we've done a pretty good job in the official recommendations to bridge that gap. But everything should be a custom approach. And there's a lot of ways to do that depending on what you purchased for crop insurance, how things are starting out for you this year. But just as a reminder, sometimes it helps just to look at the chart and remind ourselves how far we've come and where we've been.
Yeah, very good. Justin, wild weekend in Washington, but I guess what are your thoughts as we start another week here?
Yeah, just thinking about it over the weekend, just how numb, and we've talked about on the show, just numb we have become to things since, call it 2020. Headlines, it's just, we take volatility out of these markets pretty quick. But that doesn't mean that the risks aren't there. I think it's just been a kind of a comfortably numb type feeling. As far as like, I have no idea, obviously, how this whole thing's going to play out with Iran. But to Dustin's point, I mean, if the nuclear, if the uranium enrichment, if that's not dealt with, I think we benefit from the strait being closed, us meaning the U.S. We're choking off their income. I don't think there's any interest in opening the strait and then negotiating on uranium. I don't think that, I personally don't think that's would happen because there's no benefit to the U.S. Now I'm sure, Europe and some other countries would disagree. They need it open, but I do think there's other political reasons that, it being closed probably benefits some of the agendas that the White House wants to do. So that being said, I think that we're still going to have this volatility and things could get really interesting here, as we're, heading into the, midpoint of planting here in the U.S. So I think we're going to have, Dustin's point. I think it's giving us, it's putting some risk premium back into the markets. It's giving us some opportunities to get caught up on stuff that you need to get done, which was what comment I was going to make before Dustin did. So I 100% agree with that. And then I think you got to be kind of, hate to sound like a broken record, but kind of open-minded to what can happen here. Personally, I think we could see some acres switch out of corn into beans, or out of cotton into beans. And I think the Western Plains wheat crop is really interesting. I think we're so used to just, wheat can't get hurt. But I think there's going to be some pretty crappy crops out there. And, how does that change the mix for things? So I think there's some pretty positive things actually in our markets. The big negatives, I think, are things that happened last year, big acres, big crops, all those things that we've traded for months and months and months. And now I feel like, obviously we can have another, gigantic record crop, but we have a whole growing season ahead of us. We have just a lot of little things that I think have added up to some pretty positives, including a really good demand base that we've created. So I don't know. I'm trying to be still, kind of positive outlook and, kind of trade it from the kind of bullish side on breaks personally.
Yeah. And it looks like this morning, you got a big system rolling through the upper Midwest, but after that rolls through, they're kind of 2 to 3 weeks of, pretty good drying conditions compared to what we've been with. So guys will be rocking and rolling and probably getting done, for the most part.
Yeah.
Feels like.
Yeah. I don't think the market's trading any kind of a not getting stuff planted, phase of this. I mean, we've recharged a lot of soil moisture. So, I mean, we should be sitting pretty good, in a good chunk of the Midwest.
Yep. Absolutely. Ben, what's on your mind here this morning?
This is first notice delivery week. I think it's worth noting that this is the first one in a long time that we have not gone into at the low end of our range. Doesn't mean that we don't get there by Wednesday. There's gonna be a lot of phone calls going out today for anyone left with basis contracts. I would think that there's been a lot of it priced after the rally that we had. I would hope so. But I think that if we can maintain some strength throughout the week, corn's had a pretty solid run. But if you sit back and look at the month of April, it's traded on the profile almost a perfect bell curve, with 88 being the high, 69 being the low, and 78 being the most heavily traded price. So I'm kind of with Justin. I think that you got to be open to possibilities here. We're going to head into the Memorial Day weekend. Probably, kind of some peak uncertainty, especially if it stays dry after these round of storms heading in that area. So cautiously optimistic, and, see how we come out of this period where we have to head into delivery. I think delivery for beans might be worse than corn. I think we saw a little bit of that last week, but I don't think anything is going to get away from you here the next few days. So we'll see.
Very good. Got a couple of minutes here, Ryland. Let's move over to Livestock. The choice cutout finished last week with fresh 3-week highs, which, should give us maybe a little spark here to start the morning. And then managed money, big sellers in hogs, which I think caught some people by surprise there. So what do you got for us to start the week?
Yeah, it just kind of felt like a nice little short covering rally to close out the week. Yeah, choice market was up 350 at 387, select up 349. So it's nice to see, those prices kind of back on the rise. On the other hand, cash market was down to 246 in Kansas. Wasn't a lot of public chatter about what Texas was doing, but it seems like overall the trade was still going to be about 2 lower. And I think you baked in a lot of that expectation and bad news in the second half of the week. So at this point, we've seen managed money start to cover some of their net long positions. I think especially on the speculative in the fund side of the market. A lot of concerns over what this announcement from Ag Secretary Rollins was going to say, if there was going to be a plan, but nothing has really come to the table. There's been no announcements. They keep on kicking the can down the road. So we'll see if anything more comes out of that, but it seems like every time there's an expectations of something regarding the border, the market gets really scared. We just see just a decent chunk of liquidation. So I think we're kind of starting fresh this week. Maybe we have baked in a lot of the bad news so far, but it is the end, going into the end of the month. April's going off the board. June's going to be front month. So I do think we're in for a little bit of volatility here as we get into the tail end of the week, just with repositioning and such, going out a little bit on forward. And on the hog side of things, yeah, it looked like a lot of the price action on Friday was probably because of the kind of negative reaction to the increase in pork stocks on the cold storage report. I mean, you had a 2% jump from the previous month, and I think that was not to be really expected. So you saw a lot of liquidation, a little bit heavy sell pressure here, especially in the June side of things. Managed money sold 22,000 contracts, so they're now just long 66,000, which is just a far cry from the record length they had just several months ago. So it just seems like the bloom's off the rose a little bit on the hog side. I think everybody's just waiting to see if we're going to see a seasonal pickup in the carcass and the cutout, or carcass and cash, and that's likely to happen in the next 2-3 weeks, just seasonally. So that's, I think, what everybody's just kind of waiting for. But at this point, cash market, carcass has been relatively flat here, so there doesn't seem to be a big fundamental trade going on right now. So we'll see if we get any follow through today. But overall, just kind of watching the managed money dogpile out of here.
Pretty disappointing, I think, on that speech from Rollins. I think most of it was focused heavily on the fertilizer piece for the farm sector, but the beef guys, it seemed to be a little bit disappointing in terms of any sort of guidance as we go forward. Was that your take?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we want a timeline. We want certainty. The market's really just trying to gauge on when everything is going to come to fruition. Obviously, breaking ground on the sterile fly facility in the U.S. and, kind of putting Mexico into the position as well to release sterile flies. I think they just need to see that this is actually cracking a den and is going to make a difference before there's any real rollout of a plan. So I don't know why we keep on getting so excited about these announcements. They've been kind of nothing burgers so far. So overall, yeah, I wouldn't say there's anything game changing about it right now.
Very good. All right. Appreciate the update there, Rye. We've a couple things to point out here. We've got crop progress and conditions will be out at 3:00 Central here this afternoon. We'll take a look at those, visit about that in the War Room here tomorrow. Also, link in the description. Check out the War Room report. Gives you access to premium content, reactions to USDA reports, a real deeper dive into the things that we talk about on a daily basis here on the War Room. Also, a portion of those subscription fees goes directly to support the AgYield NextGen Foundation, which supports our national scholarship competition, which we just wrapped up last week, which brings me to my next point. The AgYield NextGen Golf Classic, July 27th at the Aurora Country Club, will be directly supporting the foundation. You'll have a chance to meet with our top 5 finishers in the national scholarship competition. They'll be there, so that'll be a great time. Also get to meet with industry executives and folks that are directly supporting the next generation of ag leaders. So check that out. Let us know if you have any questions. We can help get you registered there. Appreciate everybody that tunes in on a daily basis. If you wouldn't mind, throw us a like and certainly subscribe. We're doing this every day that the markets are open on X, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live at 8:15 Central Time. Appreciate the thoughts and comments here this morning, guys. It was a good show. Hope everybody has a good start to the week. I'll talk to you again tomorrow.
The War Room is presented by AgYield, a risk management partner of American grain farmers for over 50 years. Looking for more in-depth analysis? Check out the War Room Report. Our team's knowledge and expertise delivered straight to your inbox every weekday. Each report delivers key market-moving headlines, critical weather updates, USDA report breakdowns, and exclusive video content, all for $50 a month. And most importantly, 10% of every subscription will go directly to support the AgYield NextGen Foundation, a nonprofit investing in agricultural education and the future of farming. To sign up for the War Room Report, check out the link in the description or learn more at agyield.com.
Hey guys, Jack here. Be sure to support the show by hitting the like button, leaving us a comment, and subscribing to the channel for all the latest updates. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.